Tip number 11. Let's talk about attack cards real quick. We have Venom, and then we have Pilfer, and then the worst one, Constriction. Absolute nightmare fuel, this one. Obviously, we also have Hypnosis. What are the best attack cards? What do you think?
Hypnosis is definitely the best attack card, followed by Pilfer. I do think both Constriction and Venom is overpriced.
Okay, even Constriction. I thought Constriction was also kind of good to put on Association or something.
I mean, Situation is very good, but you're paying 5 money for the Constriction effect, and you have to be behind your opponent as well in Appeal or CP. And as we talked about earlier, an X token is about 3 money. So if you're paying 5 money to deny your opponent 6 money, I can live without it.
I see. A good point about Hypnosis is that even though you can't really use the worker, if you hypnotize from your opponent, you can just expect your opponent's worker or something, and it can be super annoying for him.
Yeah. Sometimes the Hypnosis is better than an Eagle.
Yeah. Hypnosis is kind of like one of these luxury cards you maybe keep for later, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm really putting you on the spot here, because we're gonna talk about the strongest animal and continent icons. Based on these pictures, and remember you have to use these pictures as reference. Tell me about the best icons and the worst icons. Go.
I mean, bears, birds, Asia. Not Australia. I'm not sure why Australia is in the picture.
The point is, look, Australia is tiny and insignificant, and Asia is much bigger.
Than the worst. Yeah, Australia, garbage, monkey garbage.
Alright.
But there's no bears here.
No, you're right. We should have bears as well.
Yeah.
The correct answer is, it might look like birds and apes are equally good, but like you can see in the bottom right, the bird is absolutely wrecking the monkey. The point is that Asia is the strongest continent, and birds and bears are the best. And generally speaking, monkeys are the worst. Sam did some of these stats on the icons. If you look at the column where it says all, it's like pretty much all players, if I understand it. And then August and November and April, it's pretty much how the top 20 players are playing compared to the average player. This is not entirely fair a way to look at it, because there's not the same amount of all of the icons. Sam, if you're watching, maybe this could be an idea for the next time you do this video, just to have a column just to write down how many tags there actually are of them. But the biggest thing to realize here is there are only 9 bear icons. It looks like people are not playing that many bears, but if we actually do the math on it, bear is actually the icon that's played the most.
Yeah.
What do you guys do differently compared to the average person? There's definitely bears, but what else?
We play more rock and water icons.
And actually fewer science icons.
Yeah, I think that's because the games are shorter and we're not as likely to get the double science uni. If the game is shorter, you're gonna have less time playing sponsors that provide science icons, right?
Yeah, makes sense. You definitely play more Asia, because that's generally considered the strongest continent. Just because these are the stats, it doesn't mean that monkeys are bad in every game. Recently, there was one of these super fast games, like 21 turns or 22 turns or something. I believe the guy actually went for monkeys, because if it works out, it works out. If there's a lot of synergy, just go for monkeys.
Yeah, I mean, when monkeys are good, they're great, but it's not very common.
Yeah. If you want to watch a video that looks literally like this for like 1 hour, then you should definitely check out Sam No Wonders. Once in a while he does a stats video like this, where he talks about the trends of the top players like you.
I think lizards are the monkey in disguise. They are kind of overrated, but also not very good.
You pay for the fact that they belong in a reptile house, right?
Yeah, that's the main caveat with them.
I know the birdhouse is more common, but sometimes the reptile house is kind of nice just because they can fit so many of these, but...
That's also why they're overpriced, right? You need a critical mass of reptiles to make them good.
Yeah, if you can get a lot of predators, like some of these hunting things, it can be out of control very quickly as well.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the order is like monkeys are the worst one, generally speaking, then lizards, then predators, then herbivores, and then of course birds are the best species. Tip number 13. Europe provides no reputation, and that's because nobody respects Europe. So if you have an animal in a zoo and you're like, let's go to this zoo because they have a flamingo, it's a European animal, people are like, I don't care. Europe is the only continent that has no reputation because nobody cares about Europe.
I actually didn't know that.
Oh really? I thought you knew.
A bit offended. Yeah. No. One more funny fact about Habitat is the only animal that provides you a free aviary needs 2 Australia icons to be played. And then Australia has no aviary birds.
Yeah, I can only assume that's a balance thing.
I actually asked the co-designer about it, and he didn't think about it like that. But maybe Matthias did, the lead designer. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
The emu is probably the worst animal in the game.
Tip number 14. Now let's talk about the aviary. And of course, we also have to talk about the reptile house. So, the aviary should be placed next to water and rock, unless you already saw the bald eagle, in which case you can get away with putting it just next to rock.
Even if you already saw the bald eagle and you know it's in the discard, a lot of the aviary birds do have scavenging. So it's a good chance you can pick it up if you're playing multiple aviary birds.
Yeah, I didn't think about scavenging actually. So would you ever place it next to not water, or would you always place it next to water?
It depends on what I trade off, right? Like I always try to save room for aviary next to water and rock. Sometimes I need to place a sponsor there or a 5-size. It's a trade-off. If you have an eagle, instead of doing a 4-size for the bald eagle, it's better to just throw down an aviary because you might draw into another aviary bird. If you can play an animal without needing enclosure for it for free, it's going to be a big advantage. And if you're really lucky, you can maybe get 3, 4, 5 aviary birds. It's very good value having multiple of them.
Reptile house, it must be placed next to water, and it should usually be placed next to rock. Just like with the aviary, just try to fit it next to both.
I don't build a lot of reptile house, but I do believe that there's a lot of big reptiles that need water, and most of the small ones either needs rock or water. There's no big reptile, which should be the reason you're building a reptile house that needs rock.
You should still place it next to both, but it's definitely water that's the most important, right?
Oh yeah, there's 5 small reptiles that needs rock and 5 small reptiles that needs water, and then there's a bunch of big reptiles that needs water.
Yeah. Tip number 15. Donations. Usually people are donating a little bit too much. Donating on 2 is good, 5 is already, it depends, and 7 is often not worth it, but I mean, sometimes it is, but often it's just too expensive. Often you can get more out of your 7 gold than donating on 7.
I think 2 is great, 5 is good, 7 depends, and 10 is often not worth it.
On donating on 7 and 10, if you have the economy, of course, you do it. If the other guy has upgraded association, you could do it just to deny it from him.
Yeah, it depends.
Do you agree that people tend to donate a little bit too much?
I don't remember exactly how much money top players compared to average player spends on donations, but I know there's a big difference. I do think the average player donates too much and the top players donate too little.
So that's the reason for the big disparity?
Yeah, that's the reason for the big disparity. Also, 2-player is the most popular format, but you also have to take 3 and 4-player games in account, where donations are a lot better. It takes longer for donations to become more expensive.
Oh yeah, because you have more spots, of course, yeah.
Yeah, people are very more responsive and less associated.
Yeah.
But I think the next logical step is we're gonna see people upgrade Assoc over cards instead. It's hard to say how much, but I do think cards is being over upgraded and Assoc is being under upgraded at the top level. But I do think there's a big consensus in the top player community that cards is the worst upgrade.
Alright, it's very interesting. We're gonna talk about that in the next video, where we're gonna talk about card upgrades. Tip number 16. Don't overbuild. At least don't have too many empty enclosures, because people are not gonna see any animals, you're not gonna get any tickets. I'm definitely very guilty of this. When I started out playing this game, I definitely built way too much. I just filled the map every game, and you shouldn't do that, but I'm still pretty guilty of this actually. I still have empty enclosures sometimes. I think the thing is, it feels bad for me when I'm not taking full advantage of it. I have upgraded build, and then I feel like I have to build on 5 instead of just building a 3 enclosure, but I think this is the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, if you have upgrade build, if you're doing a 3-size, you might as well throw down a pavilion as well, because pavilion are very good money to points ratio. I do think building is one of the hardest part about Ark, both for new players, but also for experienced players. I do think even people 800 plus are...
They're not optimized how they're building.
Yeah, exactly. They do mistakes. It's a deep skill cap.
Yeah. So what is the skill cap? How do you improve your build? Obviously it depends on the game, but do you have any general pointers or something?
I think it depends on so many factors. Like as I said, building is by far the hardest thing to get good at.
When I was beginning to play the game, generally what I'm doing is I'm building the entire map and I'm trying to build a huge engine with a lot of income, and the good players are just punishing you a little bit too much if you are doing that.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to make general rules. I don't build optimally.
But do you know why?
It's definitely, at my level, it's probably more like leaving room for special enclosures from sponsor cards.
Yeah, I guess that is a thing I've noticed lately, that you should really try to leave open spaces for your aviary. You should really try to leave open space for a 4 enclosure next to 2 water in case you get the tiger.
You have to know what's good in the game, right? When is the tiger good for me? When do I need to leave space for it? When do I get punished by leaving the space for the tiger, even if I draw it, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, it is true that you build in general fewer kiosks compared to the average player, right?
I don't think compared to other top players I am, but compared to the majority, yeah.
I noticed that you almost stop building kiosks after the first break, maybe after the second break, because it just doesn't really matter anymore. You don't really want to fill up the map anyway. You don't really want to spend the 2 money on a kiosk, but it feels like you're still fine spamming pavilions.
Yeah. I mean, it's great.
I heard Sam say that he would almost never spend an X token on a build action. That was kind of interesting because I do this a lot.
You're basically spending X tokens to spend more money. So there's some proof in that, but as everything, it depends. Sometimes you really need to get enclosures out before the game ends.
What I've noticed is you top players, the games are faster, so it's not as often you build the entire map. Also, it feels like you sometimes don't upgrade build as often. So in that way, it's kind of okay for you if you just spend a lot of single build actions making a 3 size or 4 size or something. And then you don't really care if you are messing up your map a little bit. You just want to get to all the different placement bonuses on the map. You understand very well when it's okay to mess up your map and when you have to leave a spot open for something important. I think you have a good sense of that compared to me.
Yeah. Probably compared to you, and probably compared to like 600-700 rated players, but I still think there's a lot of improvement, but it's hard. It's hard work.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to show you real quick the ugliest map you've ever seen. It's one of my earlier games. This is what I mean. This is how I played the game to begin with. I'm spamming enclosures everywhere. I don't really care because I really want to fill up the map. It's more like this. It's just so satisfying to fill up the map.
Oh yeah, it's super satisfying.
And in this particular case, I guess I'm excused a little bit because I did have Engineer, I did have Native Seabird, so there was a little bit of a point, but I mean, there's no way a map should look like this. When you math it out, I spent 42 money on nothing right now. I am getting 12 tickets out of it because I have Engineer and I'm filling out the map, but right now I'm getting nothing out of the 42 gold. It's only late game I'm getting these 12 tickets. In Terraforming Mars, I had this ongoing joke. It kind of looks like a bland salad. On the top level, a map could sometimes look like this. It's like no cities, no special tiles, just water and water rebates and a lot of greeneries, and I always think it looks so ugly. It looks like a bland salad. And
I think it looks beautiful.
Oh, you think it looks beautiful? No.
Yeah.
No cities, no croutons, no dressing, no cheese, nothing. You think this is beautiful?
Yeah.
Oh man. I am now definitely sure that you are a good Terraforming Mars player.
I mean, it's probably not a salad I would eat, but it looks beautiful.
No, it looks very ugly to me. But I kind of just had the flashback that this also looks like a bland salad to me. Basically, avoid the bland salads is what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to figure out with this interview with you is what is the difference between you, like a 2100 player, and me, like a 1800 player? By the way, I'm using arena rankings because I thought that was important, but I think after talking to you, I think I realized it's the other way around, right? You don't really care about arena rating, you care about the non-ranked rating, right?
Yeah, I mean, we care about both, right?
Okay.
When you're playing Arena, you also get ELO, right?
Yeah.
But the Arena always resets, and the overall ELO doesn't reset.
Yeah, so basically there's no way to play unranked. You kind of have to make Smurf if you want to test out things.
No, you can do friendly games.
Oh yeah, I guess
games.
that would be unranked. Maybe that's what I should have done. What is the difference between you and the average 1800? Why is it you keep crushing people with my rating, is what I'm asking.
I mean, it's a bit of experience, but also like action efficiency. I prioritize 2 actions very highly compared to the next. And I do think a lot about how can I use those actions at the right time and how can I have the highest amount of strength whenever I need to use them.
What are the 2 actions you're talking about?
Assoc and sponsors. For example, if I want a Assoc, maybe I have a clever animal in my hand, so maybe I use an X on a Assoc just to do it before I play my clever animal, for example.
So you get the Assoc on a higher level as soon as possible? Yeah.
Yeah, someone like you maybe don't think a lot about your action efficiency. Then you also have to understand what games Assoc and sponsors are not important. Some games, animals going to be more important, which is kind of common when you have as a special assignment on small, for example. Maybe some games you don't have any cards, so maybe cards is your most important action. You do have to figure out what you need in the game and make sure to take that action as most efficient as possible.
Yeah, and maybe some games you're just really unlucky. There's like literally no project you can really support. In that case, association is not as important, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I also think that's a difference that if a 600 rated player struggles, they do kind of like lose. A 600 player can probably play as well as me with like the perfect hand.
Like poker is like, what do you do with a bad hand? That's what separates us.
Yeah. As we talked about earlier, building as well. Also switching up the strategy. Like maybe snapping reward is not the correct reward this game. Maybe I just shouldn't default to upgrading build or upgrading sponsors for that matter. Because it's not what I need this game. I think that's the main things.
I have a few differences here that I thought about. I think your top players, you see a lot of weird lines that I never even thought of. One of the big things that's keeping me down is definitely consistency. It just comes down to experience, I feel like. It's the same experience I had with Terraforming Mars. I could crack like top 50, but to stay up there, you just have to play so many games. You have to be so consistent. And that's the difference between me and the top Terraforming Mars guys. And I think that's also the difference between me and you and Sam. It's a problem of being on the top, right? You get 3 yellow for winning, but then you lose once and you lose 30 yellow. So that's why consistency is so important when you play on the top level.
Yeah, I think my win rate is like 90%. So, I mean, I do lose one in 10 games. But the games I'm losing to are to stronger players.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter that much in terms of elo.
Yeah.
And then also, like we talked about earlier, is this idea of planning ahead. I think you guys are really good at that. I had this example where this Nimuak guy, he just completely crushed me with an X2 on animals that he set up beautifully with the reptile house and so on.
First round does matter a lot. At least for people below 500, it's the biggest mistakes are probably in the first spray.
Yeah, what mistake are you talking about specifically?
Choosing the wrong opening hand, obviously. Taking cards when you're second player and your actions are bad and your opponent can break on you. Not snapping anything from display, that's important early on. Starting with the wrong association action. Trying to get 2 animals out when you really should just go for 1. Maybe playing a sponsor instead of breaking.
Basically everything we talked about today.
Yeah.
Can you freestyle tip 17 and tip 18?
Just get luckier.
Alright.
That's a good tip.
Alright.
I mean, luck beats skill most of the time.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people say Ark Nova is not a marathon, it's a race, which I don't agree with at all. It's more like an ice hockey match, it's like a short burst of racing, but it's still a marathon. You need to play like it's a race at some points of the game, and in other parts of the game you have to see the bigger picture and take things slowly. Yeah, it's more like an ice hockey match that you go out, you do your stuff, and then you sit on a bench for a while, rest up.
You have to know when to press on the gas pedal and when to slow it down and slow play. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, a bit that, but also you need to be explosive when you're supposed to be explosive, and you need to shell when you're supposed to shell. So Ark Nova is not a race, but it's not a marathon either.
I gotcha. Tip number 19. Be mindful of which map you are playing. I was thinking about doing some more about maps, but as it turns out, you and also Sam has already done a lot of good videos about maps, so I figured I wouldn't do it again. If you want to check it out, here's the video you made about maps, and also Sam did a couple. He did this for map 9 and 10, and he also did the new maps. On BGA there are some remade maps, some balancing going on. Like, for example, if you're playing on Commercial Harbor, you might be more inclined to upgrade cards, because then you can just keep selling cards and stuff like this.
It kind of depends on how the CP rewards, depends on how they're distributed. Like some cards get weaker and some cards get stronger.
Like Park Restaurant, if I remember correctly, it's like 1 shield to get the last worker and 2 shields on the 4th spot to your handshakes or something.
Yep.
So on that map, you would be more inclined to upgrade Association, for example.
Yeah, and also getting the 3rd unit does you nothing. So tough luck if your endgame is research or you have a veterinarian you want to fulfill. But I think like in general, like ICP is one of the better ones to not upgrade build on, and also like Research Institute.
Yeah, that's funny because in ICP you kind of want to spread out and build because you have the kiosk you want to get to. So it kind of surprises me.
I think the main reason ICP is a good non-upgrade build map is because you already get so much from it. Like all the rewards on it is good. Like 2-size is very good, snapping is very good, pouching is very good, worker is very good. It's like one of the best maps to take a worker on 2 CP. Like you can still upgrade build and do fine. It's a bit redundant maybe. On the alternative maps, it's like very easy to get away with not upgrading build on most of them.
Oh really?
Yeah. More open space. The spots you need to have upgrade build for are placed in a nicer way.
Ah yeah, I see what you mean, yeah. And finally, the last tip I have for you today is watch JD stream. And I'm not only saying this because he's my co-host and I want to promote him, but it's actually how you learn the game. So who do you recommend watching?
If you want facts or like how to play Ark Nova optimally, I'd say it's me, it's Sam, no wonders. It's Dwarven Time, streams on Twitch sometimes. I think it's Too Many Bagels, his Twitch channel. Strategy Advisor has some good breakdowns of the game. He has, I think, 2 really good videos and 1 really bad video.
Alright.
That's kind of funny. So the good ones are how Ark Nova is balanced, and
That's one we used earlier today.
yeah, and also. Oh, never mind. That might be it. Sorry. But like how Ark Nova is balanced is probably like one of the, at least the most interesting Ark Nova video there is. One of the most important things when it comes to gaming in general. Like, think for yourself. Even if I do something, I might make a mistake or I might have a different understanding of the game. Like, even if you watch a video about what maps I think are good. I did that video a year ago, and like my opinion's changed since then. Like, I don't think Observation Tower is the worst map anymore. It's really grown on me, because I think I put it at the bottom, but I think it's definitely stronger than Park Restaurant. And be critical. I think that's very important in general, to be
for sure.
critical about content. It's also down to playstyle as well, right? Because I have a different playstyle compared to Dwarven, for example. I think I average like 2 more turns per game than Dwarven, but I also average high score. So like, if you're a more aggressive player, maybe Dwarven is the better education source than me. If you're more like laid back and controlling player, maybe I'm a better source than Dwarven. Like if you see, I average 1.5 more turns than Dwarven, but I also average 5 more score than yeah, Dwarven C, I'm F.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they determine the determination. They also added determination at the bottom, which is funny. Okay, Sam has the most eagles per game, apparently.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for watching, and next video is gonna be about card upgrades, and I think JD is gonna join me for that one as well. So see you then. Bye.
Bye.
A game like Ark Nova, we gave it a little bit of a hard time, the developers, because there's a few balance changes. When everything is said and done, it's incredibly well balanced, and it's so incredible that so many years after, people are still debating which cards to upgrade. I think they did a wonderful job on this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's balance issues in every game, right?
Yeah.
And that's the issue with board games compared to a game like Dota, where you can just correct your mistake.
Yep.
But I mean, for being a board game, it doesn't have a lot of issues. I can't think of a board game that has better balance than Ark Nova. Obviously, I am biased because I do have played a lot of Ark Nova. But other games I know well, like Terraforming Mars or Dune Imperium or Wingspan is probably the worst. But I recently been playing a lot of Wingspan. The balance in those games, yeah, it's not even close to the Ark Nova balance.
Yeah, I actually played some Wingspan earlier on my channel. I had the world record, 180 points and something in vanilla before the expansions came out. It's definitely exactly what you're saying. The only strategy in vanilla Wingspan was like building a sick middle row with like a raven and a Franklin skull or something. And they tried to fix it with the expansions. Now there's also viable to play in the river.
Yeah, but also on board game Arena, they removed the big 4 birds and wood duck, I believe. Even after removing 5 birds from the game, the balance is horrible.
The only thing that really killed Wingspan is the fact that people just began to play all the 5 different seats just to achieve high scores and stuff like this. But I don't know, is there even a community for Wingspan on BGA?
I have no clue. I mean, it's a popular game on BGA. Before Ark Nova, I do think Azul was the most popular game, followed by Wingspan.
It's kind of impressive, actually, when you think about it, because Wingspan also has a really good app. So Ark Nova doesn't, so it's kind of impressive that there's a big following on Wingspan on BGA as well.
Yeah, it's more straightforward as well. It's like, I know you're Dota players, so I can shit talk League, but it's a bit like Dota and League, right? That League is the dumbed down version of Dota.
Yeah.
So it appeals to a wider audience.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to get into.
A nicer way to put it is it's more noob friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.